Welcome back, guys. Last night we actually had a trespasser come in on the property, and I'm going to tell you guys how I handled it, and I want you to let me know what you think of the way that I handled it, and then I want you guys to tell me how you would have handled it differently. I didn't handle it like you probably would think that I would handle it. So last night, guys, I was actually I got invited to do a podcast, and it was in the evening time. So I was in the middle of a podcast, or getting to the end of the podcast, and you guys can actually go check out the podcast. It's The Confessionals. I'll put a link in the description below. It was pretty fun. It was like a really cool moment that went into like this oh shit moment. But pretty cool podcast. The guy's content is very unique. Go check it out. We talked a little bit about the Bigfoot videos that we've had, and so he wanted to know about that stuff, but that's not why he had me on originally, but you guys can go check it out. Tony Merkel, The Confessionals, pretty cool. So I'm gonna take you guys over to where I actually intercepted this trespasser. Now, we are on the back side of my property. I don't really do a lot of videos back here. We usually take you guys up to the north side. The top 5 is how we refer to it. Or just in and around. We don't really come out here too much. And I'll kind of show you. So this is basically like I'm on my property here, and that is my neighbor's property. So it is my least defined border. Now this goes for a ways. And this is just vacant land, right? And then beyond that is hundreds and hundreds of acres of state use land. So it's very remote, but there is a road that comes into this place. But I heard what I thought was like a 4-wheeler coming. And one of the nice things about living out in the woods is it's very quiet. And when you hear people approaching, you can hear them from a long ways off. And I could hear this guy from a long ways off, and he wasn't coming fast. He was just kind of putting around the woods. And so I heard him coming, and I could tell he was on my neighbor's property, and I'm assuming he was trespassing. The neighbor has one sign at the end of this, the entrance to his property. He has one old sign. I've never even met this neighbor before. They don't come out here. It's just, investment land for them. But I could tell that the guy was coming in this way because we don't get too many visitors in this area. So I can hear the locations, and I know where the roads are at, and I know that where you would come if you were coming via a motorized vehicle, right? And so the guy was making his way in here, and so I was able to get done with the podcast. I was able to grab my rifle, all right, because you guys, you don't know how these things are going to go. To go into a situation with a trespasser unarmed is dumb, and we are always armed out here all the time. So it's dumb to think that it's going to go well. I feel. I might be wrong. You guys can tell me in the comments. We're always armed out here, and most of the time it is for just in case we have trespassers and people we don't want on the property, or people coming to do harm, right? So I have this opening out here. I'll turn you guys around so you can see it. Here is the opening. So it's a little road that comes in, and then this is actually my property, and that's the neighbor's property. And at some point, the owners or somebody just basically pushed in a little clearing area. You can see that they, pushed up a bunch of brush and stuff, but they basically came onto the neighbor's property and created this road that now attaches us, unfortunately, but we bought it this way. So what happened is the guy just slowly putted his way in here, and you can see the tracks. Here's some tracks right here. You can see the tracks where he ripped up the dirt, and he just came right around here, and what he was going to try and do is see if he could go there. And I knew that he was going to. I knew that he was just out probably, putting around, checking out a road he's never been on, or a trail. And anyway, he went into there, backed up, and then made his way out. And he wasn't making his way out very fast. So as he's making his way out, I'm just listening to him. And I was actually, from where I just showed you guys the tracks, okay, tracks coming in, I was actually right back in there and could see him clear as day. So this tree right here, guys, is where I was. And if you can see basically right out there to where that snow is, all that open, that's the clearing where it took place. So you can see that pretty close, less than 30 yards. But he couldn't see me. I've got the brush to my advantage back there. So there's a couple things I want you guys to take away from this interaction or lack of interaction with this trespasser. And one is I was aware of the fact that he was coming. Two is I'm aware of the fact that people sometimes just accidentally trespass. And I know that it's not an excuse. And to be honest with you, we cut trespassers zero slack out here normally. But I handled it differently on this side of the property than I would have handled it if it was on the other side of the property. And the reason for this is why, and the reason why is because this back side of the property is very remote. That guy probably came in here, saw that there was nothing, and left and thought nothing of it. But if I had confronted him out here, and then I had let him know, like, hey, we live right here, get out of here, I would have then given him just that little bit of information of there is actually someone that lives right here. So my course of action was to deal with it in a very passive manner, sort of let him come and go. He maybe came onto my property 10, 20 yards, okay? It's not like he was deep inside my property. And I knew what he was doing, and I knew where he was not going to go. He was going to go there and not go any further, and I knew that he was going to turn around. And of course, if he got off of his vehicle and then decided to go walk around, I would have confronted him. But I chose not to, and I chose to use it as a bit of a training exercise. So what I did was actually watch the guy for probably close to a minute, because he was rolling very slow. If not a little bit more time. He was rolling very slow. He wasn't here very long. But what I did is I got myself into a position to be able to see him and not be seen. And then I was able to watch him without him knowing I was there. And then using your critical thinking skills. Everything does not have to be an argument. Everything does not have to be a confrontation, and a lot of times trespassing confrontations go bad. People get very pissed off when you tell them to get off your land for some reason. I think it's just the challenge of it. And of course, a male telling another male what to do. Sometimes you get a clash of heads. Sometimes people are very cool about it. We've had multiple trespassers out here, and we've had people handle it both ways. We've had people come get aggressive or get very upset with the fact that we're telling them to get off of our land. And we've had other people just be like, oh, okay, sorry, didn't know what it was. Now, part of this is my fault, and the reason for that is I don't have any trespassing signs out here, because basically the trespassing sign is staring at trees. But I should probably get no trespassing signs out here. In the state of Idaho, you are supposed to know where you're at all times. It is not up to the landowner to let you know you're trespassing. It is up to you to know that you are not trespassing. But a lot of times, guys, that sign is just it's an easy deterrent. They see it and then they say, oh, I'm in the wrong spot. I turn around and I leave, hopefully. Now, here's the other great thing about it. And I've done this before as well, as I've seen people crossing through on motorbikes, and I've seen people come off my neighbor's land knowing that they're trespassing and then hit our main road and go out, which they're still trespassing. So just taking a mental note of the people that go by, you know, whether it's their motorbike or their four-wheeler or whatever, just identifying that. When you catch them a second time, the confrontation goes a little bit smoother, because you can say, hey, I've seen you back here before and you're not supposed to be back here. They realize they've been caught before, and they're a little more likely to just kind of leave without it being any sort of an issue. So here's a possible downside to this. If I were a person out looking for a camp spot and I was traveling some back roads, back trails, and I found this, I would consider this a pretty cool camp spot. It's open. You could make a fire here. In fact, people have. But you can make a fire here. You could set up a tent here. If this guy was looking for a bug out location, he just found my backyard. That's a problem for the future. But keeping a mental note of that and understanding that is going to be key moving forward. And then we handle it the second time a different way. Then it becomes, okay, I've seen you on here twice now. Didn't say anything the first time. I let you leave. You've come a second time. Get off of my property. Do not come back. When you're dealing with trespassers, guys, and you're in remote locations like this, law enforcement doesn't just show up. You can't just tell them to get to my back 40, right? They don't just show up out here. It would take them forever to wind through the back trails to even get back here to be able to ticket someone to tell them to stay off your property, which is a formal trespass. Formal trespass is good from law enforcement. If you don't want somebody on your property, what you need to do is have them stay there without detaining them. Have them stay there for law enforcement to come, and then give them an official notice of trespass, and that is the legal notice you want. So that's what happened last night, guys. We went from podcast to ninja mode, which is fine. It's, you know, all of these little things are learning events. All of them are a chance to get to use, you know, your mental skills. And the way that I chose to handle it, I'm happy with. I think that it was much more valuable for me to just sort of let him scoot on down the road without knowing anything else was out here, than confronting him and giving him that information. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Tell me below what you would have done. Tell me what you think of the way I handled it. I think in this case, guys, I think defense was the best offense. Sometimes offense isn't always the greatest tactic, right? You got to play it smart, but you got to do what is best for you and your family on your property where you're at. So take a lesson from what I've said, good or bad. Figure out if mentally that's what you would do. Walk yourself through that situation. But let me know in the comments. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We get trespassers out here once in a while, so we get many opportunities to handle them in different ways. Hit the subscribe button. Don't be trespassing.